Hey, cheers. Hey, everyone, we're back. This is Pints with Ayre, March 17th. Happy St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day to you, Ariel.
Indeed.
Today, it's actually a little bit of a different flavor for us. We're actually going to be doing,
We're breaking tradition, indeed.
yep, in a few ways, actually.
Yeah.
Scotch with Ayre today. Scotch with Ayre. There might be a pint later or two.
There will be off camera, sure.
One of my favorite new customers to talk to out in Florida, she mentioned about a week ago when we were talking on the phone, wow, you guys drink a lot of beer. And I thought it would be appropriate to let everyone know we don't just drink beer. So
There we go. No, we don't.
just kidding. But we are appreciators of fine things. And since you've got the bottle, do you want to share what we're sipping on today?
So, Flamirage, Scotch. This is a new one for me. I saw at the store, and it's one I've been meaning to try for quite a while. It's so for me, I know you're a fan of the really peaty, smoky ones. Those aren't my favorites. So this one is a little less peaty. This is not quite as harsh, really smooth. I enjoy this one quite a bit. I come from, I grew up on like Glenfiddich and some Glenlivet, and one of my favorites is like a Macallan 12 or something I really enjoy. Yeah. So this one fits in nicely with my tastes.
Yeah, I think the flavor profile is pretty similar to a Macallan. Yeah, it's good. It's good, and I do like the smoky, peatier ones. So Lefroy or Lagavulin, those are kind of my go-tos. Yeah, definitely. I prefer Scotch myself for the whiskeys. I have some Irish in me, but the Irish whiskey, that's some strong stuff. It knocks me back. Actually, I can go through quite a bit more Scotch than I can Irish whiskey for some reason. So
yeah, I'm not sadly I'm not very familiar with many of the Irish whiskeys, so it's always been.
Well, you've got a lovely green Ayre shirt to celebrate for today too.
Yeah, this one is actually quite old now. Although this one got lost in my house, and so it was recently found, so it's still nice and bright and hasn't been faded too much. I've got the black version of this that is very well faded. The back graphics are just about gone on my black one.
Right on. Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, we still have our double diamond shirt. If anyone wants a double diamond shirt, just give us a call. They're not on the web shop, but we do have some really cool shirts. They're probably the most comfortable shirt that I own.
That's a soft one, yeah.
It's nice. Well, all right, we're chit-chatting here, so let's maybe dive into some more audio related stuff, because this one's going to be really cool. I think that this is a really underappreciated accessory in the audio world, and we're not the only ones that use this, but we're going to talk about Myrtle blocks.
Yeah, so our aka golden cuboids, and so I unfortunately don't recall the genesis of these, and I forget if it was a collab. I'm sure it was a collaboration with Carter's, and we had because they I wish I remember the full story, but and so we knew that there were various isolation products, particularly for either cones or various damping products to isolate components from shelves, and even lifting cables off the floor. And so at one point I know we played with and again, if you want to play with this on a budget, our first, when we still have the box around here somewhere, the game of Jenga as wood blocks, and I don't know what the specific wood is, and it's not necessarily that consistent, but it's a pretty uniform white-ish wood. And those, if you want pretty near the performance of these, honestly, the Jenga is great. that does most of the job. Now these, again, so we got in golden cuboids because of the golden ratio of the three sides. It's all golden ratio. I don't remember what the dimensions are, but you can measure them. Golden ratio. And so we collaborated with Cardis again to also work on the materials. So they had a special source of myrtle wood, because all these are currently made from myrtle. And so, we actually tried a lot of different materials. We tried various plastics. We applied different species of woods. And that's a deep hole to go down to try all these things. And so the myrtle is a great woods, because we believe, partially because of its unevenness of grain. It's very inconsistent, which I think is actually a good thing in this function. So again, what we're doing here is, we use these both in our listing room and whenever we go to a trade show and set up. And what we recommend for any of our dealers is we use these as the footers underneath products, as well as for separating the cables from the floor and from carpet. We believe they make a huge difference. And we've done lots of listening tests, and I've got a story shortly that'll show that. But yeah, so again, we just underneath components, that's kind of where we first tried them. And sorry. And so what we found was that and this holds true with almost any material that we use in any place, but when we put these under components, or whenever we put any kind of material underneath the component to separate it from a shelf, it was pretty readily apparent that the character of the sound very much mimicked the material. If it was metallic or plasticky or synthetic, if it was a plastic and synthetic, the sound had a very synthetic nature to the sound. Or if it was metal, it was sounded more metallic. And the natural materials like wood sounded more natural. And so we've learned that in time and time again when we choose materials for various things. In that case, it would be great to use wood in a lot more cases, but it's simply impractical just because of humidity differences around the world. We can't practically make a chassis or a faceplate out of wood because it simply would not survive in all conditions.
Yeah,
These are small enough and practical that's a different story. So anyway, so we tried maple and we tried mahogany and various a lot of different materials, and myrtle was really the best overall solution. Not to give away too much, but ex Airhead Gary Mulder definitely helped us in these quite a bit, and we I know that again, not to give away too many of his own secrets, but I know he has his own special sauce where he has some of his own versions, and he actually alternates a couple of different wood species. I won't say which wood species there are, but his ears are so fine-tuned that he can really pinpoint the difference in sound of different wood species, even alternating them along a cable run. And so I'll have one story to highlight how much of a difference these made to us. And so when Charlie was after Charlie's accident and before his passing, there's a period of time where he was homebound quite a bit, but so there's a period of time where he wasn't in the office for roughly a month or so, but he came in after a month or so to do some listening. And so in his wheelchair, he would roll in and we would do some listening tests. And so, again, like he was not mobile enough, to be able to see everything in the system, but so he could see everything, the speakers, the cable runs, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So he came in one day and sat down, we started listening, and then he kind of stopped and had us pause the music and was scratching us, and it was like, it sounds like there's a wood block missing. And we're like, what are you talking about? And so it's like we looked all around, but so our main equipment rack is actually kind of to the side and behind the listening positions. And so it's, and at that time it was at our old location. It was in the corner. And so we looked around, and in the back there, sure enough, one of the cables had fallen off the blocks and was touching the ground. And he was not familiar with the system very much at that time. There was no way he could have seen that, but he was able to roll in, listen after a month and a half of not hearing that system, but was familiar enough with what kind of difference these made in the sound and what it sounded like when the cables was touching the ground, and was able to guess that was the case in something in the sound he heard. So it shows how much difference these makes, as well as what kind of ears Charlie had. I was able to pinpoint that and guess that was what it was.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna point that out too, because it kind of tells, both of those stories of how much of a difference these make, how critical Charlie's ear was. It's not like our gear doesn't sound good without these or something. It's just it makes a difference, and if you're tuned in to those differences, it's enough that you can hear it.
That's right. Yeah. Now, again, not to give too many of Gary's secrets away, and it's almost too bad that we weren't having a Boulder beer today, which unfortunately the brewery's no longer in Boulder. They were one of the first microbrews in Boulder, but we talked about them because one of his tricks and the way to get the most out of either metal cones or the wood blocks was he liked to use a Boulder beer coaster, cardboard. Now, hopefully it doesn't matter if it was Boulder beer, but at the time it was. And he cut it down, and he would glue or attach them, double stick tape or glue, I forget, add a little pad to the wood block. And that was another one of his tricks that I hope he won't strangle me over divulging. That seemed to make another interesting difference.
Don't strangle Ariel, Gary. Yeah, so one of the Myrtle blocks really changed my kind of perspective on what I should be doing with my gear, almost, because when I started at Ayre, it was try to decouple your product and your speakers, whatever, try to decouple it from the surface it's on as much as possible. And I think that with these, it's really a matter of kind of taking advantage of the resonant frequencies that the Myrtle block wood has to offer, because Myrtle wood is, that doesn't look as good, but Myrtle block or Myrtle wood is a wonderful tone wood. I mean, it's an amazing tone wood for acoustic instruments. I mean, it has just a naturally pleasing resonance to it.
Yeah. But also, one of our presumptions is that because it's such an uneven grain, that it actually has probably a fairly broad spectrum, just because it's not just a tight grain, it's not just a wide grain. A lot of it's curly. You'll get a lot of different colors, from a really dark one to some fairly light ones. So it's very non-uniform, and so I think that's actually a benefit in this case, and probably actually is certainly a factor in its tone.
I think so too. I mean, Myrtle wood is a hard wood, but there's harder woods out there like babinga or ebony or wenge. There's a lot of other hard woods out there, and I believe that those woods are going to have a tighter and more uniform grain structure. And so the more randomized or broken up it is, the less likely you are probably going to get some overpowering resonant frequency.
Yep. Yep.
It's yeah, they're super cool. And so as Ariel mentioned, we do use them on our cabling along the floor as well, underneath of our equipment. And there's a really cool video I'll try to track down and put a link to in the description. But there's a cool little video I saw of George Cardis actually kind of giving a demonstration with an oscilloscope, kind of showing the actual difference that having the cable on the Myrtle block versus just on a surface. I think it was even just his table in the video, but it cleaned up the waveform and the noise that was on the line tremendously just by putting it on the Myrtle block. And so that's an element I haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's another, it is cool. Well, so another trick that I've just recently learned that this might be a good thing to turn some folks onto. This doesn't work with all of our products, but the Myrtle blocks work awesome to give some strain relief to a big bulky power cord too. So like our 8 series power is a little higher up, but this is a QX5 right here. And it's actually, so it's the QX5 is sitting on some Myrtle blocks itself, and the power cord just sits perfectly right on top of one of these two. And instead of sagging down on that socket, it's now nice and level. So it's just recently something I just discovered that's kind of fun with these.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember also another maybe not so fun story, but when we're first, I think Carson was working on the V blocks, and so I was actually trying to mock some up in my wood shop. So I've got a nearly full wood shop at home in my garage, and so I was trying to make some of these. I was trying to make up a jig to do them kind of in bulk. I did something stupid, and it's hard to tell now, but I've got a permit. My fingernail. I don't know, fillet-fished my index finger on my left hand with the router. It got caught, and the thing was spinning at about 18,000 RPM. Instantly turned the tip of my finger into just a bunch of little pieces. And I also learned that the nail bed has the highest density of blood cells, the blood cells in your body. So it's very bloody.
Oh man. Yeah, I've never had an accident like that. I've got a permanently altered fingerprint from a soldering iron though, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
shows up anytime I do my fingerprints. So so something I just thought of with the wood blocks underneath of the gear.
Yeah.
So like their audio equipment throughout the circuit, it can be fairly microphonic, right? Like there's a lot of there can be elements that introduce
yes
mechanical noise and artifacts into the circuit path.
Yeah, that's typically most commonly thought of as, like capacitors, and certainly tubes are certainly microphonic. Those are probably the biggest culprits. But yes, there's so whenever there's whenever there's any kind of wire or any kind of loop or like a capacitor, which is often a loop, kind of a coil of things, or an inductor, like whenever you move it. I mean, if you think about a loudspeaker, the voice coil, that is going the opposite direction, where you are turning changes in current into movement. And again, like any kind of wire passing through an electrical field, can cause forces and mechanical forces. And so again, if you apply mechanical forces to any kind of wire or current going through wire, it can induce voltages. And so yes, that's essentially what microphonics is.
Yeah, so so fuses, capacitors, and what else did you say? What was the
Well, tubes.
tubes? Oh, well, yeah, tubes. I mean,
Yeah, vacuum tubes are often very
those. Yeah, tubes are very microphonic. Yeah, if you've ever had a tube amp and you've tapped on the tube while it's on with like a pen or something, oh man, you hear that right away. But yeah, so and you know the transformer inside of a product, it can generate some mechanical
It does, yes.
movement. Yes, it does when it's got a current moving through it, and the surface it's on is not totally stable. I mean, there's vibration, there's resonance, there's seismic interaction. There's no perfectly still surface that you know we could be putting some our products onto. So I think again taking advantage of that kind of that pleasing resonant frequency kind of buffer almost between the mechanics of the surface and the product are some of the sweet sauce in this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I certainly don't understand all the physics of it, but it's we understand some of it, and but more by trial and error and by listening, we have we know it makes a difference.
And you've got all of the examples. I pulled up a couple here, but there's technically three styles, right?
Well, there's almost 3.5 or 4 now. I think we only have 3 of them. But so the original solid were intended for underneath equipment. Yeah, and then the 2 notched versions. And so, the double small notch more for like pairs of interconnects potentially, or the single notch either for like originally intended for larger, like speaker cable or power cord kind of situation. I know Cardis offer the double version where there's this on one side and then the small on the other. They have a version which looks a lot like this that they offer, but I don't think we have that version at this point.
Okay, very cool. Well, yeah, I think that's can't think of too many other points to bring up about them, but I've just again been very surprised at the benefit that they do provide. I mean, I've spent a good amount of time in this listening room behind me just messing around in my spare time, and I've played around with them, and yeah, it's definitely something you can pick up pretty quick.
Yeah, and I'll say that like we think that they're important enough that we include a set of 3 with every new product that we sell. And so if you already have them, you can use them again for your cables. But again, like we certainly encourage you to try them as footers underneath our equipment that we ship them with. They are taller than the feet that come on the product. And so that you can just stick them under, again, 3 points to find a plane, so it only needs 3 to replace the footers. I'm not suggesting that you take off the feet and equipment. Again, you can just stick them next to them. But yeah, that's how important we think they are, that we've actually started including them.
Yeah, I remember asking, why don't we just make these into the feet right away? But then you brought up the great point of humidity and varying climates around the world.
Climates, yeah. Then coupled with having to screw them and apply force to them against the chassis, and that's almost certainly going to, in some environments, is going to cause them to crack or something. And so it's yeah, and some people may not want them. We don't want to force them on anybody, but we do recommend them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this guitar here would have a very hard time in Colorado. Colorado is very, very dry. Wood does not like it here. Where do we get these wood blocks from?
From Oregon.
From Oregon, yeah, Oregon Myrtle Wood, and so we get them from Cardis too, technically, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So thank you,
Yes.
Cardis. Thank
These
you,
are made
Cardis.
by Cardis for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a fairly unique supply of Myrtle Wood, because I believe that it's, again, I don't remember the specifics, but there's something about you can't harvest it anymore, and so there's a previously harvested stash that they have that they can use, but I think it's, I don't think that it's allowed to harvest myrtle anymore. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but that was my last understanding.
I'll do some fact checking. We'll
Again,
we'll check out the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council.
there you go.
That's who's in charge of that. But yeah, it's a really cool, as I said, underappreciated accessory, I think, that that we provide. And yeah, we usually have them, and we include them with all new product too. So if you don't want them for your gear, give them to your kids or your grandkids, and they can play with them, and they'll sound better while they're playing with them. But yeah, it's a really cool little piece. But you got any other fun Charlie stories or Gary stories to share with us?
Oh, not today.
All right.
Not today.
All right. Well,
Save those for later.
I think we've educated our Ayre fans on the Myrtle Blocks well enough today.
So,
well, cheers to everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy responsibly. Enjoy some music, and we'll be back next week and have another fun topic to go over. Maybe accessories, maybe classic products, maybe one of our super cool guests that keeps changing their schedules on us. But yeah, we'll have some awesome new content coming back for you guys next week. But we really appreciate you tuning in as usual. And yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. Cheers.
cheers.